Hey everybody, hope you're having a good different time here with at home and getting some extra rest and just having a good time with your families. Hope you're staying well. I miss seeing you guys every day, but hopefully these videos and the other lessons I'm putting up here for you will help us stay on track and enable us to be able to finish out the year well, at least until we're able to get back together. All right, so yesterday, you were supposed to review some stuff that you'd learned in previous years about the mean, median, mode, and range, and we'll review that a little bit more today as we study two ways of visualizing data, the dot plot and the histogram. So in this first video, we're going to look at the dot plot, and the dot plot is specifically for modeling what we call discrete data. So what is discrete data? Discrete data is in a very basic sense data that is counted. Okay, it's data that is counted. And the reason why that's significant is that there are distinct gaps between the values. This is as opposed to continuous data, which is usually stuff that's measured. And the reason why that's important is because, like, if you're measuring something in inches, you may round it to the nearest inch, but really what you're doing is you're recognizing that getting an exact measurement is really impossible, and so you're doing your best thing, and you're kind of putting things into ranges with continuous. But here we're looking at discrete things that are counted, and a lot of times, if you're trying to tell which one you're dealing with, you could say, "All right, am I trying to figure out how many I have?" Because that'll kind of tip you off that you're dealing with discrete. Are you counting them? All right. So what is a dot plot? Well, let's look at constructing one, and we'll see what that is as we go. Here we have two sets of data. We're going to do two different dot plots here. We have two restaurants, and each of these restaurants had 18 customers. And the numbers that you see here are just the tips that are left. So here's a $1 tip, a $2 tip, a $2 tip, a $3 tip, and so on. Here is an $8 tip, a $9 tip, a $9 tip, and so on. And both of these sets have 18. So what I'm going to be doing is setting up a dot plot. And I already put the numbers in order smallest to greatest. You won't necessarily always be given the numbers smallest to greatest, but I put them here for ease. All right, so there's one that is our lowest value, and here's 10, that's our highest. And we just need to get all the other values in between. So here's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 4, 3, 2. Let's move that over a little bit just so it looks a little better. 1. Okay. And a dot plot is really pretty easy to make because you look at the numbers. Here's a 1, so I'm going to put a dot above 1. And then here are a couple of 2's. So 1, 2. And then I have 1, 2, 3 3's. So I'm going to put a dot for each one of these above the 3. And notice I'm making the first dot level, the second dot level, and any others that have the third dot, I'll make it level with this third dot. For example, there are 4 4's, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, a couple of 5's, 1 6, 1 7, 2 8's, 1 9, and 1 10. Okay, so that is the dot plot of our first set of data. And one thing I'll mention here is I had these smallest to largest, but because you're just adding dots, it actually is pretty easy to make it even if they're not listed smallest to largest, because you just see whatever the next number is and you put a dot above that, and you can just go in order. All right, so I'm going to do restaurant number 2. We have 8 as our smallest value, 17 is our largest value. So I'll go 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, and I'll number these. Okay, so now we look and there's an 8, there's a 9, there's another 9, there's a 10, another 10, and a third 10. There I see our 4 11s. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4 11s. There's a couple of 12s, a 13, a 14, a 15, a 16, and a 17. Okay? Now, you'll notice all of the numbers in here have at least one dot above them. If there happens to be, like, let's say there were no 13s, you would still put 13 on the number line. It would just have no dots above it. Okay? So you do want to account for all the values from the lowest one to the highest one. You would just not put any zeros if there isn't one of those scores. Okay? So let's consider how would we use these? How would we use these dot plots? You know, it's nice to see what we have, but how would we actually use this? So what do we notice? If you look at this data carefully, you'll see that the two distributions actually are exactly the same other than the values that they start at. Okay, so restaurant 1 goes from 1 to 10. Okay, restaurant 2 goes from 8, and I'll put dollar signs here just to remind us that we're dealing with money, $8 to $17. Okay, but the values are distributed the same. Now, I will say this, we'll talk about distribution a little bit more later, but you'll notice, just for a quick example here, notice how more of our data is down here on the bottom half. Okay, most of our data is in the $2 to $5 range. There's a couple of high ones and then this one low one. This is actually what we would call positively skewed data, because the majority is here, but these few high scores are going to skew our mean higher than where most of the data actually lies.